But LifeWise has influential backers, including Representative Gary Click. He's a sponsor of the bill that would require schools to allow release time for religious instruction and is a pastor in his district in Western Ohio.
The change from may to shall makes sure we ensure the parents' rights to make choices for their children. So it says the school shall have a policy. It does not dictate what the policy is, but it says that you should have a policy. For most schools, it's not going to be a change. 75% of schools in Ohio have a policy. There's just a few schools who, for whatever their reasons are refusing to allow parents to have their rights to direct their children's religious education. And so we just want to make sure that the parents are entitled to make the choices for their children.
So it does require that students are released to go to religious instruction?
Yes, it requires that they have a policy regarding that. It doesn't say what the policy is because it leaves a broad parameter of choices for the schools because we want it to work everywhere, and every school is not the same. Every situation is not the same. All circumstances are not the same, but we just want to make sure that parents and children have their rights.
Now, it seems like I know it's been in existence before, but LifeWise obviously, and it's the number of students who have signed up for that has kind of pushed this forward a little bit. Why shouldn't these release programs be targeted at things that are before or after school programs? Why release kids during a school day when there's so many things that teachers need to be teaching and so little time to do it?
Well, that's a very good question, Karen. So there's two parts, and first of all, the reason is because some kids are left out because maybe they ride the bus and they don't have transportation, and if it's before or after school, those kids are eliminated from the process and that opportunity. So this ensures that they have the time to do it, and it works in every school. They cannot miss core curriculum or core classes. The amount of time needed is not a huge amount of time, and many schools make it work by using lunch and recess. So not only are they not missing core classes, they're not missing any classes, and the kids have a great time. And then there's actually been studies done that report that actual school attendance increases. We find that in-school discipline and in-school suspensions are decreased. Out-of-school suspensions are decreased. It has a very positive effect on behavior of the students. It helps the students' self-image and their self-worth. It's just really a net win-win all the way around, and it does not interfere. So many administrators, so many school teachers have implemented this and used this without any incident or any problem. But there are people out there who really, I think, just for bigoted reasons, they keep creating all these boogeymen to say, well, this will happen and that will happen. But really, that's never been proven to be the case.
The things that you're citing there, are those studies specifically on LifeWise? Does those statistics and those things come from LifeWise itself, or are these all sorts of release programs that have been in existence for a while?
Well, LifeWise commissioned the study, and so it does deal very specifically, I believe, with LifeWise. But they're really the largest players in the field. They saw that this was something that was available. They just started on a small scale, and they said, maybe we can be in 25 schools by 2025. And I think they're already in somewhere between 300 to 500 schools, and that doesn't happen unless you're doing things right. They are very successful. Schools have found that it's done very efficiently. The teachers are well trained, well prepared. They have an efficient system to get the kids where they're going, to get them back, to cause a minimal amount of interference in the schools. If they weren't doing their job right, it wouldn't be popular.
Now, LifeWise is suing a Indiana man who got a hold of the curriculum and published it
Mhm.
on his website. It's been taken down now. But I want to ask you, the LifeWise website lists sample curriculum, but you can't access the full curriculum. Now, the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce's website notes that Ohio law gives parents and guardians the right to review curricula that's being taught in their kids' schools. So I know LifeWise does a lot of things, well, does all things off school property, but shouldn't parents have the right to look at what LifeWise is doing, their full curriculum, and look it over and judge for themselves?
Well, I think you're really talking about two separate issues. Of course, I 100% believe in parents' rights, and I think parents can make that request to LifeWise and to the officials That's not what happened here, though. This is somebody who, for bigoted reasons, went and stole something. Really, copyright laws exist for a reason. And just because, he's a vigilante and really it's just based on bigotry. And so he goes and steals something and puts it out there. You can't go steal a CD or, well, CD, that shows how old I am. DVDs or VHS, you can't just go steal other people's intellectual property and post it. That's common sense. Everyone knows that. And he's just doing that to try to harm them, as far as I know. I really don't know much more than you know. It's just what I've read about in the papers, but it makes no sense for him to claim to be doing something right. He's trying to be a Robin Hood, but he's just acting like a hood.
I know that the concern about the I know the concern about the curriculum not being able to be read is one of the things that's been brought up. But there's another thing that some critics have brought up is that the people who work with LifeWise have not gone through background checks. And I'm wondering, you've probably been in touch with the folks with LifeWise. Is that the case? Are these teachers and the drivers of vehicles that take the kids back and forth, are they fully vetted and background checked?
So there's two answers to that. Number one, yes, they are. They do run a background check on everyone that is a part of their program. But the second answer to that is that, remember, schools get to create the policy, and a school can add that to the policy. There's nothing that would stop a school from saying that's part of their policy.
And you're also a co-sponsor of a bill that would allow schools to have chaplains. And you have
Mhm.
said that what you've got here, the release policy, is open to opportunities of all faiths. But there are certainly people that look at the chaplain's idea, some of the other proposals, and think that the legislature is inviting the church, especially the Christian church, into public schools where kids of all faiths and even no faith are there to get their education. How do you respond to that?
Well, no. So, and I think a lot of people want to mischaracterize things. And let me just speak from experience. I've been a chaplain. I've been a law enforcement chaplain. I did that for a decade. And sometimes people just need somebody who's going to sit and listen to them and talk with them, and I was a hospice chaplain for a few years as well. And as a hospice chaplain, I didn't say, well, what is your religion? I can't pray with you if you're not my religion, and I never forced my religion on anyone. Sometimes, really, in certain times, it's really like a mentor, and you're there for someone, and you can talk just some basic common sense to them. You're not necessarily a mental health professional, but that's not always what people want or always what people need. And they need somebody, and maybe so many times people have just said, hey, could you just pray with me? And to be able to offer up a prayer or to give some practical wisdom, some practical advice, some character building instruction. And people read too much into this that's not there. And I had an atheist one time when I was a hospice chaplain. His wife was in the program, and I would go and I would visit, and we talked and different things. And the only thing is we kind of both laughed because I had to tell him. I said, "You're not an atheist." He says, "I'm not." I said, "No." He says, "Well, what am I?" I said, "You're an agnostic," because he didn't know the difference between an agnostic and an atheist, and which he says, "I don't think you can know," that's agnostic. An atheist says definitely there is no God, and I'm probably getting too detailed for you here. His wife got better for a little while, and she was no longer in hospice. And so I wasn't visiting anymore. She did come back into hospice. He says, "Oh, I couldn't wait till you came back." And I didn't push my faith on him. I'd answer any questions he had, and we'd just have good conversations, and I'd pray for him and his wife, and they were happy because you don't have to force anything on someone to be an effective chaplain. A chaplain ministers to everyone, and you meet people where they are.
Click says he thinks there's a place for religion in public schools and everywhere because, quoting him, in our country we have the freedom of religion, not the freedom from religion.